what to do in the meantime, and why it doesn't matter. The audiobook by Dr. Michael Richard Lucas. Narrated by me, Samantha. Arranged and produced by Michael Richard Lucas. Chapter 6. How to stop your boomer from doing another January 6th on Facebook. Our character found it funny if attacked by a murderer while turning a corner. Their last words would be something like, "Ooh, sorry about that, my bad," as our character would attempt to awkwardly step back and do a stupid wave thing that only white people do. Starting a vlogcast everywhere books are sold. Subscribe on Tinder, or call your local fire department. Our character wanted to be famous, but they didn't want anyone to know anything about them. No longer a young professional. No longer professional. Never was. Never wanted to be. Neither was anyone else. Professional was one of the terms they kicked around during our character's space-time. Carte blanche for getting rid of people they didn't like standardized testing, etc. An easy way to reject, without having to think much about it. Popster wins local Popster cover band award. Stop dancing, everyone. Stop dancing. Given the inevitability of pandemics throughout human existence, one would have assumed extremely normal money system would factor this in. Don't you hate it when you see an exclamation point coming up, and you're forced to raise your inner voice at the end of the sentence? Luckily our character didn't trust themselves enough to stay mad at people. It was one of their only redeeming qualities. Or they were too stupid and forgot. Those were the two options. Either be perfect and smart all the time and never get anything wrong, or find a way to get over your wrongness. When do we tell our character they are being stupid, but not to offend them and make it worse? Our character decided to make important things. What things would they make important? Things that would provide lasting rewards. As long as they had a purpose, a goal in mind, they would be fine. Our character had gotten better at recognizing the self-construction. They learned how to arrange themselves. Environment was hostile, but it had the blessing of Sky Wizard and Orange Man, so it couldn't have been hostile. If it were hostile, that would mean things were going wrong and needed to be changed. And obviously that wasn't true during our character's space-time. It was. So it couldn't have been a hostile environment. Logic. Ergo escargot. My car go 150 swiftly. Just because you can do things with superhuman strength doesn't mean you should. Our character only used what they used. Personal accountability, a pyramid scheme. All the good winemaker's principles don't require you to follow winemaker. There were no socio-economic classes in freest nation, but our character sent their kids to private school just in case. Our character was going to change the channel, but they kept it on. Our character was creating an invitation to their costume party. Without a theme, their guests would ask, "What's the point?" Conversely, our character shouldn't pick out costumes for each individual. Our character needed to provide direction to create a sketch, a sketchy sketch, a stretchy sketchy sketch. Incapable political party trying to find a candidate that will change nothing and lose election. Not a great alternative. Fanatically conservative. Chaotic order. Wildly calm. Inconsistently consistent. But chugging insane rules. Impossibly possible. Existentially existential. Liberal conservative. Climate change and evolution do not need you to believe in them. But if you want to be able to do science, anything can be anything. But that doesn't mean people will read an academic paper written by science deniers. They didn't. Person from extremely normal political party attacks shadow. Extremely normal political party wants to limit access to healthcare and expand access to guns. This made our character pause and think, but they soon wandered off topic. Big Bang Theory has hardest working laugh track since Friends. Jokes without punchlines. Throughout our character's life, they realized they put as many limitations on things as other people. Arriving at these realizations was one of their best qualities, but it was not rewarded during our character's space-time. So our character didn't fully develop this trait, but when they did realize this, our character was able to be friends with more people, and more people within those people. Hippie college kids spent hours debating the homeless sky wizard prophets on campus. It was inauthentic. Shaking hands and pretending to be friends afterward is easy when you never have to see that person again. Our character only had space-time for those who had space-time for them. It wasn't a great system, but it was one. Save the whales. Sign this petition, just don't make eye contact and you'll be fine. Our character went through their life being more judgmental sometimes, and less judgmental other times. It used to be easy to know who the famous people were. Now, our character found themselves constantly asking, am I supposed to know who this is? Our character vetted projects on their ability to like them, then dislike them, then like them again, etc. If a project didn't go through this process, our character doubted others would like it. Other people will come to the project with different opinions. So our character should ask, well, if our character hasn't changed their mind about a project or a person, it meant they hadn't thought about them very carefully. A finished project was never finished. It was merely abandoned due to other demands from space-time. This mindset communicated the openness of a sketch, an impetus for creativity. The finished work can should still be edited for the next project. At least, it is still open to permutations, not a period at the end of a sentence but a refusing to spoon-feed or patronize the audience. Our character let go of their projects, always before they were ready, asking their audience to consider, not a singular message, but a message that opens up possibilities for the individual that lay beyond the singular work, not merely reinforcing the audience's habitual rhetorical positioning, but reminding them to look around and consider the context, not merely getting their audience to do something, but to undo something as well. Our character had to become the strangest they had ever become, before they could become normal again. Our character realized the importance of what they were doing, and therefore, had to learn how to stop. If you put your audience at a disadvantage, there better be a payoff. What you need to know about what you don't know. Tonight at 8. I sure hope there isn't paint in my protein shake is something our character never would have thought to think before having a child. Crowbar or Bar Crow? Cheerios has a pretty good customer service hotline. You guys should check it out. What's your skincare routine? Difficulty in obtaining prescription for anxiety medication made our character anxious, defeating its own purpose. If our character was going to be crazy, they might as well be a good writer. Or maybe they weren't? Never certain. Nearer curtains. Work to eliminate possibilities. When there are too many, prove the null hypotheses. Put forth the thoughts you hide. See what validity springs forth. If not, you will be forced to get your house in order before the inspectors come. Life during wartime. Freest nation pretends nothing is happening. Freest nation's ability to disassociate. The only thing keeping it going. Defeating its own purpose. If you must beat the refs and the other team, then you must beat the refs and the other team. There is no such thing as fair. Inequality is nation's foundation. The end, at least. For now, only treating the symptoms, not the causes. Life being the disease. If you're counting on technicalities to get you out of your problems, you'll never see the end of them. You're nothing until you prove yourself. And then you'll never stop having to prove yourself. Nobody ever arrived. They were all always in transit. Our character refuses to fill out customer survey. On principle, there weren't many principles left. They were collecting all the data, but they didn't know why. Nobody knew what to do with all the information, so they used it to sell more stuff, etc. Ad infinitum. Ads infinitum. Unfortunately, it was as bad as our character thought. During our character's space-time, our character needed to work on becoming a better salesperson of the self. Our character needed to create a character out of themselves. Our character's character needed to interact with the characters the other characters created. Everyone could drop the charade, but the rich people wouldn't be able to purchase a fourth house if this happened. The character's salesperson characters needed to be hyper-aware of everything, at all space-times. They needed to place a character of themselves, or two, amongst the audience of salespeople characters they were constantly performing for, to see how they were doing. Every sentence, every word was being read into. This is a book after all, a perpetual state of anxiety, being offended, and being pointlessly mad. What did they think about this? And what did they think about that? Form an opinion, quickly, defend it, with the rest of your life. Attacking became a defensive strategy. Everything had to add up at the end of the day, even if it didn't add up. Cooking the books of the self. It didn't help anyone. In fact, it hurt most. But they had to win. Everything was a competition. Nobody could ever win. They could only lose. They all did. If every space-time period is unique and different, none of them are. Our character's British professor was saying logician, but it sounded like they were saying magician. That lecture was wild. There are no wrong answers, so long as you provide an impetus to create. The idea of a finished project used to identify ourselves can be intimidating. Find a way to break it down. Trick yourself into starting. Not having to fully identify with the project and all the baggage that entails. Maybe you'll publish under a pseudonym, but don't. Maybe you won't publish it at all, but do. Try not to worry too much about getting all yourselves to align, so they agree with each other, because they won't, necessarily. Big Mac too small. Everything is a science now. Biology, a brand of lotion. Philosopher doesn't publish due to religious beliefs. Update. One cannot bore oneself to death. Our character usually tried to avoid talking to others at the gas station. Our character's epitaph. Surprisingly dedicated to pointless causes. Everything is glitching. One red flag. Should have been. Orange Man's casinos lost money. Freest nation. The Karen of nations. Fly wins. Our character defeated. Again. We don't know what happens after we die, because we haven't a clue what we are doing when we are alive. Loosen your grip on end results. Move outside the narrow expectation of logic and reason. Subjugated to an all-encompassing utilitarian purposefulness. Pointless purposefulness. Mountains of data. Rotting in the sun. Loosen but not abandon the grip of one's cognitive orientation toward the world in favor of another's. Jettisoning the perpetual calculation of Homo economicus. Our character was ready to stop being a crazy person. The world didn't agree. The crazy remained. Do less. Big energy. Dedicated to my addictions. Eat enough toast tomorrow. How do I people? Why did we ever let humans drive cars? Once again, our characters should have been way less honest in 99.9% of their interactions with humans. Nothing appropriate. Remind me later. Self-help workshop at 8 p.m. in the main ballroom. Oh shit. I just have to believe in myself? Moon fed up. Iowa. We grow corn. We eat fried sticks of butter. And we decide who the leader of the free world is. No. Not just a Boy Scout. An Eagle Scout. Our character was stunned. If it's not rated TVMA, I've not wasting my time. Symptoms for one thing. Also symptoms for other thing. Studies show. You've been doing it wrong this whole time. You're probably sleeping wrong too. Here for a long time, not for a good time. If my socks are inside out, who am I to stop them? Our character would turn them right side in the middle of the night. Enough experimenting. I need to sleep. Was it Lennon, or Lennon who did the bed thing? Culturally authentic performance, boring AF. But like commercials now streaming on Netflix. Oh, but I like these ones. Our character's friend claimed. They weren't friends for long. We need to fear itself. And everything else. Our character had been so concerned with everything going on. They forgot to be perpetually irrationally afraid of volcanoes killing them. Our character had given the extremely normal money system countless opportunities to exploit them for their overeducated mind and stupidly relentless work ethic. If you need me, I'll be in bed. Election, sex. Nation. Thinks health is cool, but likes rich people more. Nation believes money trickles down, and altruism trickles up. It didn't. A beautiful night to start a bender. Creativity requires a deep friendship with oneself, all the selves. To inspire creativity in others, we need to first be able to be vulnerable with ourselves, critical of ourselves without taking offense, with the understanding we have our own backs, and will see ourselves through the process. We gain the confidence necessary to play with the end result, and therefore, leave it open for others. Instead of merely responding to our own vulnerabilities, that convince us we need to direct others to one singular answer, to limit our audience's ability to question our authority. If we avoid this, we can allow others to be creative, when they interact with what we have made. A sacrificial lamb. Raisins inexpensive, according to trail mix. Forgetful people. Remember they were forgetting. Isn't that more impressive? Our character was today years old today, drowning in neoliberal inspiration. Crazy, musician, boring music. Did I just hit on my wife? And yes, I can drink. On the job. Are my fingernails growing faster? Lol. Wait. Why is anything the way it is? Masquerades hit all-time low. Don't lift a grift horse in the mouse. One in the ham is better than true in the brush. A cloaked clock is wrong for days. Our character, a tabula rasa, to have the many value systems played out upon them, within them, etc. What they bring, experiences, narratives, into the situation. They don't think of it as themselves, because they can change their minds. But for others, our characters' logos, or perceived logos equals ethos is all the others have. To think about our character, all they can use, all they have learned to use. But our character is the thing that can change their minds. The ethos cannot, necessarily. The attempt to create a human through artificial means, will therefore fail. We would be attempting to create it through an ethos logos, a value system we have discovered, been taught, used repeatedly, normalized. However, this does not allow them to create with the blank nothingness. People who write are already dead. Writing is the disease that keeps them going. Creating logos for others. After logos is finished with us, the world agrees. Too much stuff. I work really soft. I'd rather have a twice in a lifetime experience. Do everything as much as possible, so you won't want to do it for a while. What's your favorite car season? Maybe it's not a great idea to have the worst people in charge of everything. Have we tried putting the best people in charge? Cantaloupe still shit melon. Easter every fucking weekend, bro. This had them rolling in the grass. Shit. It was nice to finally get together and do this. Let's get wasted. It's Arbor Day. Great time to invest in Furbies. You don't have to advertise the thing I'm using. I'm already using it. What more do you want from me? Our character forgot everything, so they could change their mind. Low-key epic bender occurring somewhere. Our character's 1 a.m. rationale. Tomorrow is going to suck regardless. There might as well be a reason. Shards are not always just farts. To a parent, an electric scooter looks like an ice pack to the face all night. Now, more than ever, in these difficult times, the sheets trap my farts for you. How to create a tabula rasa, by definition impossible, on which we operate, not a logos. merely multiplying the number of responses a computer can provide, duplicating what is already known. It can only generate logos, not the tabula rasa, only responding to what we know, which is all it knows. But our character was never fully their own response. They were not their logos. Logos was only one of many selves. Circumstantial. Our character couldn't make out what the delivery driver was saying. Too many fridges. Or too many fridges? CEO fails drug test. Again. The minimum requirement for a conspiracy theory is being a theory. If you can walk down to the hospital and have your COVID-19 conspiracy disproved, there is no conspiracy, at least in the way you have framed it. Now more than ever, in times like these, conspiracy theorists need to come together and agree on one bizarrely incoherent narrative. Old Testament sky wizard playing greatest hits right now. Just play the hits. Our character refused to live up to the standards they set for themselves, and it showed. The heroes are the real heroes here. Thanks a lot. Yeah, sure. See you soon. Okay, yeah, we'll see. Sock situation getting weird. A beautiful person's being is negated. The other must project onto them. A carryover, a remainder, the residual desire, left by another, in the past. Beauty is a book to read. The other's formulation of beauty must be posited onto the desired object. This accumulation of beauty, the other's practiced taste, their aesthetical logos, their type, is learned. It has become accustomed to being performed, preformed, its origins long forgotten. Simulacra. Beauty is forgetting. The only thing that remains, the repeated form, empty, until filled with meaning. Gestures without content, but at least this provides a starting point. New tastes can now be accumulated, but this can only happen if the individual does not know it is happening. If the person whom the individual attempts to posit their accumulation of beauty onto is not blank enough, then this positing will not occur. Where once there was a man, alas, now a beard. Concern for the poor? What's next? Followers of winemaker being decent people? Great time to have trust fund. Trust fund. Do something bad to save yourself from the cult of self-righteousness. Existence is forgetting. Forgetting is existence. Our character looked up at the stars. They couldn't help thinking they were doing everything wrong. Existence is a distraction from itself. This is a book for people who read to read. The author, philosopher going pro, analytic philosopher taken in the first round, Heideggerian, traded to LA Lakers University of Minnesota Amway, deconstructionist, enters transfer portal. Apparently, our space timeline wasn't the one where things could change. Microwave pizza, too hot. We don't need studies to tell us who is suffering. We need to stop the suffering. Profound simplicity. Our character didn't want to write, but nobody else was writing this, and no better options presented themselves. It was a lot like dating. What kind of choice is this non-choice? Look around you. Do you really think your way of doing things is the only way others should be doing things? What do you tell yourself to patch up this logos? To stop the flood? What else do you patch up with this justification? What else is in disrepair? The thread undoes everything. Your justifications, said out loud, feel different than when it remains rattling around in your head, always putting it off until another space-time. What you assume space-time will heal, it won't. Or maybe, don't think it should. And maybe, it will. It didn't. Maybe it will fix itself. It never does. Until it does. The hope that you are stupid enough to have overlooked the solution that will now present itself. Deus ex machina. Finding the one, etc. Is Christianity working yet? Oh, maybe tomorrow? Or maybe tomorrow? Etc. Ad infinitum. Ad absurdum. What if I buy stuff? Etc. Ad infinitum. Ad absurdum. What if I write more? Etc. ad infinitum, ad absurdum, we should have kids, etc. Ad infinitum, ad absurdum. Our character had a working knowledge of non-workable solutions. Our character was watching a movie shot from the simultaneous perspectives of two different people, a couple. As they narrate, they break narration to retell the story that is already occurring, etc. Ad infinitum, ad absurdum. The conversation driving the story is occurring elsewhere, off-screen. The audience has to piece together what actually happened based off of the accumulation of simultaneous stories occurring on the screen. In the end, we are stuck with the results of what had happened. The present. The audience only gets different points of emphasis. The average. It keeps folding in on itself. But that is what moves the narration forward. The constant entropy welcomes the past, and readily dissolves all meaning, as soon as the meaning has started to be made. Self-similarity, infinite regress, etc. Mimetic, copy of a copy, a logos. I'm willing to admit my drugs are a crutch. Why aren't you willing to admit religion is yours? Genius is socially acceptable obsessive-compulsive behavior. I'm new in town. Where is the good fruit? All sounds great. Is it a good idea? No. But it is an idea. And that's always better than nothing? I'm new in town. Does Ashley live here? Anyone else going to CBS rock and roll masturbation show in Times Square? Why would I ask him about this weekend? He knows I've got the sickness between the legs. Our character was still trying to cash in on this mild personality disorder. I think we need to redefine the term genius to include me. I only eat and drink things that have won awards. Stock market falls. Because stock market thought stock market would fall. I'm Karen, and I'm new in town. Where is the nearest manager? Are you saying tapas or topless? Read instead of read. To no one in particular, our character mumbles incoherently. We need more. Lids. Rival dad hovering too close to grill. Don't flatter yourself. Refugees don't want to live in freest nation. They just don't want to be murdered in theirs. Alleged fruit medley is 75% melon. Great time for toxic introspection. Overdosed on antioxidants. Both sides agree on open dialogue. Neither meant it. The episodically overarching narrative. So episodic. It's overarching. Humor is an easier way of achieving the same thing. Plus, it's fun. Avant-garde art. Not always fun. Absurdity and non sequiturs too theorized. I need that pure. Her. My roommate is gone. I can be as loud as you want. Him. Where did they go? Romantic love is socially acceptable fetishization. Drink more water. You can't just be clever. But it's a good place to start. Why does it feel like I'm not having sex with you right now? Instead of doing a bad job, do a good job instead. Yesterday our character was asked to call the branch about some branches dedicated to my addictions. Sometimes parents post pics of their kids to remind others their kids are adorable. Sometimes parents post pics of their kids to remind others their kids are adoptable. Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet. Not as catchy as Romeo and Juliet. I believe in a post-currency society. So yeah, I can't pay for that. Do you want to see my box collection? Our character had to stop being themselves in social situations inspired by actual events. Still cautio-mystic. An odd time to defend the extremely normal money system. One-dimensional personalities finally have something to talk about again. Protesters protesting. Back on my bullshit. Crack on my cullshit. I don't know if it's me or it's you, but it's definitely you. Talent no longer rising to the top. Our character didn't know what was funny anymore. Extreme life coach. Another midday wellness seminar. Our character was either striking out hard or hitting home runs. There was no other explanation. They knew no other way. Our character was genuinely invested in their projects. It was one of their best attributes. And they never knew it. Even if the project ended up being shit, people admired the attempt. Someday, Right now will be millions of years ago. Our internet's getting worse? Art is the process of opening up into another logos. Orange Man is proof. Competition doesn't provide the best results. Our character didn't know what they didn't understand. Therefore, it fades into the background and becomes who they are. Link in bio. Our character had too much to drink. Again. When they request nudes, send pics of others who sent you nudes. They need to learn to be more specific. Communication is key. Never send dick pics. Just choke shots. Band name. Fantastic everything. DJ name. Acid pillow. Our character was waiting for Old Navy cargo pants to swing back around. Brian Mango Seltzer Orchestra. Be professional. Show her that you get up early. You are goal-oriented. And have a spicy seed. Text girls at 6 a.m. You up. On the one hand, you got bid. Not everything that slows us down is preventing us from what we want. Another speed or direction of achieving what we want. One we didn't know existed. If you're afraid of the dark, become the night. Great art takes you to another dimension. Completely lost. To be found. Again. Later. You don't own your consciousness. Maybe just renting? If you lease today, we can lock in a great interest rate. Our characters' Tuesdays were feeling more like Wednesdays. If you are able to go into other worlds, then by all means go. As frequently as possible. These days need to be as blurry as possible. A real atheist just agrees. Perpetually recovering. Art should make it possible to live more lives. Our character is now looking back at us. What should we say? New continent discovered. Not how you would have thought though. The gaslighters don't know they are gaslighting everyone in everyone else's business. Nonsensical string of powerfully woke catchphrases used to sell car. It's almost as if basing a society on perpetual competition wasn't the best way to prepare for natural disasters. Oppressive governments. 043798343124374182734. MS Word gets font wrong. Again. Our character wanted to assume everyone hated them, so they could be pleasantly surprised. Enemy nation dedicates large section of history curriculum on the indigenous peoples of freest nation. Every word now the name of a company. TM. In calling attention to the game. Our character was in danger of never being able to play the game. You've called yourself out. Trust no one. Never let anyone know what you do or don't understand. Admit nothing. Especially in a court of law. Omit everything. Popster. Orange Man. And CEOs do this all the time. Standard for anyone attempting to hold on to power. They couldn't. Check out this one trick professionals do. Tonight at 8 p.m. Why shouldn't you? The only thing our character was ever able to find was themselves. Balls as smooth as old Benjamin Button. Insanity merely another way to provide stability, albeit not as appealing to some. At least, a little daily self-sabotage is okay. It wasn't. It takes a village to raise one in every family. You only take the shots you don't hear in the forest. A podcast. Nobody asked. This might be nothing, but it was. Style is everything. You don't intend. You can never know your style, identity. Only others can glimpse it. In concert with others. Identity is always contextual. The you that prevents it from merely being contextual. I guess identity was a lot of things. Apparently, shit has always been going to shit. Why did we go to the moon? Lol WTF? We could have cured poverty. Nope. Let's get people to the moon, and then bring them back. Shortly thereafter, see, we went to place. Vacation photograph says. Our character still liked it though. Thunderbolts don't exist. Orange Man creating perfect Mexican terrorists. Abstract art in one line. These random things look cool together. Our character wanted to find out more about themselves. So they traced their way through everything they'd ever heard about themselves. Every conversation. Every result. All so that others could know something about them? when they had to personify themselves. They didn't want to, but you had to give your coworkers something, without giving them anything. Is there more than this infinity loop our character was traveling in, going to self, out of self, into others, and back into out of self, etc. This infinity loop was space-time itself. It was also identity. There is no such thing as space-time travel, only self-travel. How do you travel through your life? Through yourself? How do you go back to the past or out to the future? The infinity loop provides peace of mind for everything. We know we will not die, but merely bounce back and forth inside the self. This can either be an insanity-induced claustrophobic reaction, or freeing, or both. It was ambiguous. The you that is you is the thing in charge of balancing the two. It must be true, because it rhymed, and in doing so, this is how one dictates space-time. Our character thought, I do these little things for next time me, just in case. If you want your family to love you, don't talk about Popstar or Orange Man. In freest nation ever you were free to have your own opinion. Unless you held the opinions our character did, then you were not allowed to hold your own opinion. I'll get back to you as soon as words matter again. PYT, DTF. We are a riddle for others to figure out. Others including ourselves. I'm a riddle ergo sum. Here is my handle. Here is my bomb. The consensus projection of everyone we have ever met at every moment, including ourselves. Our character's dreams stop making sense after that. Don't hatch your chickens until you count all the eggs in your bag. Live, laugh, love, divide, and conquer. Hold strong opinions for a short time, or weak opinions for a long time. Live, laugh, love, and pain is weakness leaving the body. Life is full of hidden solutions. Has anyone ever had too much syrup? Let me rephrase that. Is anyone here a liar? Our character was already over this vacation. I am all impulse non-control at this point. Viewer discretion advised. Intelligence is a curse. In a world of idiots. Do you floss at least 3 times a day? Let me rephrase that. Is anyone here a psychopath? If rich people aren't happy, sounds like a them problem. If our character had money, they would be happy. But because they'd be happy if they had money, they couldn't have any. It takes a different person to get rich. It takes an idiot. If not already an idiot, being rich will turn you into one. Perhaps. In a deeper philosophical sense, money doesn't buy happiness, but healthcare doesn't cost philosophical money. Healthcare costs money. If people don't have healthcare, they will not be happy. Being unhappy is the opposite of being happy. This sounds simple, but you'd be surprised. You shouldn't be. How many people during our character's space-time couldn't figure this out? If you don't know what to say in conversation, wait until there is a long pause, then say, loudly, survival of the fittest, baby, as you leave to pretend to go do something else. Channel your creativity through multi-platform exposure. Every victory, I ask, how much will this cost? Money doesn't necessarily help you find your soulmate. Did anyone ever assume it did? Sounds like a you problem. Money does allow our character to settle down when they are more prepared to, with a person they aren't forced to be with, because of money. Technically, money doesn't buy you happiness. It's only necessary to maintain happiness for any period of space-time. If happiness is the opposite of being miserable, and it's miserable to not have money, then money is necessary to be happy. Homo economicus, once again, turn something into a money-making competition. Zen for sale inside, when the imaginary background story becomes all there is, and then the crisis, and now it's real. What does this belief allow you to do? Can we return to our character? Where are they? I'll find them. Let me know if you find them first. Our character finished their novel. It was impossible to tell if the novel made them famous. Was it still being written? On our character's journey, space-time was not linear. It is also possible they were daydreaming about fame. We can question the credibility of our author as well. We can question the credibility of the reader as well. To have read it the right way, everyone was on trial, so nobody was. Our character thought their best trait was they were bearable. They were right. I'm not too offensive, am I? Thought person who was. Our character hoped they weren't overselling themselves. They weren't. If there is a set sum of money that will make people happy, $50K, we don't want people to know it. They can't have a yearly wage. They need to be perpetually trying to add up their hourly rate. This gives them a much narrower perception of numbers, cost, etc. If you tell someone it will take 2 years to purchase a car, while still having to pay for everything else in the meantime, that is crushing news. They will stop working. Telling them they will make $8 an hour, not as bad. $8 an hour sounds much better when compared to a gallon of milk for $4, but $8 per hour doesn't even make sense when you put it next to $50,000 a year. If people knew how much they were going to make each year, they would know how much they will be charged for taxes every year. People would talk to other people if everything was standardized. During our character's space-time, all those who profited off the system's inefficiencies, CPAs, lawyers, politicians, realtors, people who made up the rules, etc., would be out of a job, and they would be forced to do something useful with their time, like teach, or make something. Therefore, life had to be an anxiety-filled, hour-by-hour game of impossibilities. Our character could win, or they could lose. Like all the undesirables around them, our characters started rationing their hours, since an hour was only worth $8, which had a direct emotional and spiritual effect on all their relationships, which could be measured. If they had the money time, they didn't. If $50K a year is announced as the baseline, a minimum wage, everyone will know, without having to add up hour-by-hour wages, how much money, space, time it will take for them to be happy. If everyone knows how much money, space, time it will take for them to be happy, they will demand that amount. Obviously, they will get outraged at housing prices. Obviously, they will not pay their doctor's bills. Obviously, the insane profits that only benefited trillionaires would no longer be made. If money didn't buy them happiness, we should take it from them, so they learn to appreciate it. If poors had money, space, time to be educated, this would require trillionaires to actually be educated, not just hold degrees from Ivy Oxbridge, which would make them have to work, just like the poors, which would defeat the purpose of being rich, having money, space, time, etc. College needed to cost an exorbitant amount of money, so they could give it to soldiers for free, so they didn't have to pay college athletes, so they could weed out the individuals who could critique the system. Singer unnecessarily differentiates between 6 and 12-string guitar. Extremely normal political party is doing great things for people, said nobody. Nobody is getting out of this goddamn car until Gaga finishes Bad Romance. Our character was no longer constructing witty comebacks. They started writing things down so they could forget them. They could then go back later to remind themselves. At least, the option was there. Maybe it helped them to release the burden. Beasts of burden. It was getting heavier by the $8 an hour. Should we lighten the burden for our character? Or should we continue to provide more character-building experiences during our character's money, space, time? If only our politicians were as talented as our athletes. Everything has been named. Everything in our character's money, space, time was either terrifying or fascinating. All famous people are troubled, because everyone is. All great writers have depression, because everyone does. Famous people are just the people we talk about. Of course they are difficult during certain space-times. Of course many people had many different opinions about them. This is merely describing everyone who has ever existed. Nothing special about Popstar. Our character worked in the service industry for character-building experiences. I suppose we allowed it after all. Let's not make them do this for too long. Tipping made them work harder, not softer. It helped make them more obedient. But when it comes to actual money, they make less because of tips. If they worked really hard, it made them think they could make more. They could make money while making money, like the stock market, but not even close at all. No matter how much they made in tips or saved with store discounts they used to clip coupons out of the newspaper, it would not be as much as a basic yearly salary, necessarily. Perks are a sideshow. Hustle culture just glorified poverty. Our character could really use a deus ex machina right now. Our character's personality is 69% memes at this point. Lol. Nice. Music scene. Dress badly. Sound worse. Almost useless superpowers. Superhero can tell by looking at people what their dominant hand is. Network does a special on them, because they are trying to start a campaign against left-handed people. Regulating the virus? What's next? Regulating assault rifles? And on keyboard is stop this. Nance just wanted to make sure Randy had enough sunscreen. No need to get all worked up about it. You can purchase the book you are reading online. Shop Amazon Disney Plus. This holiday Christmas, Popster sending a powerful message about Popster. Pivotal gay rights anthem unknowingly, unironically, sung by thousands of anti-gay redneck evangelicals at sporting event. I'm totally punk rock, and I didn't realize it until now. Every day we hear up from the void. Every second. Buying in bulk was one of those perfectly choreographed capitalistic phenomena. The bad news. The idiots always think they are smarter than you. People, these are the drugs we need to make this life livable. Those in power will sell you some of those drugs as prescriptions. Lol. So we can make a profit. Other drugs will be illegal because they compete with the drugs we are selling. And other drugs we are going to make sure poor people are on and can't get off. To fund our prison economy, etc. They aren't even trying to hide it anymore. An artless police state. Redundant redundancies. Plant-based equality. Repurpose nation. Good rough draft though. Did you say brick and mortar? Or Rick and Morty? I'd rather talk about Rick and Morty in this job interview. If possible, our character's own job search wasn't going any better. I don't want to give any clues. If the sentence that follows will have any connection to the sentence it precedes, that the machines started to resemble them was no mistake. They were the ones who made them. If you feel like you've read this before, have you? Our character was only able to accomplish all this with the generosity of strangers and the loathing of family and friends. Surrounded or surrounded, the way words are or the way words are, out of ferpilosity, pure curiosity. If world-class athletes are adhering to pandemic protocols and breaking world records, I think you can adhere to pandemic protocols at your local Applebee's.